for the Making Schedule Changes and Creating New Public Service Announcements. I'm Sarah Bayer. I am the Marketing Communications Manager at Clever Devices. Thank you everyone for joining us. I hope everyone is staying safe and healthy in these interesting times. So as you all know, the COVID-19 pandemic is progressing and is affecting many cities and towns throughout the United States and Canada. And your ridership will unfortunately be decreasing in this time, especially as we heard yesterday that we are socially distancing for another 4 weeks. So with decreased ridership, you will need to adjust your service to meet the demand, and we're here to help. We also understand that you need to keep your passengers and operators safe. So we'll review how to create new public service announcements that help those riders during this health crisis. So just as you can see, a few of the public service announcement examples that we've already created for some of your peers and some additional agencies at this time. So just a overview of what we are able to do. And we will be taking questions following this demonstration. If some of you were with us at the during our bus time webcast, we were able to take text questions, and we will be asking them to our product experts following this presentation. So please type your question in this chat window, and we'll be getting to you following the webcast. So without further ado, I would like to introduce our presenters for today. So we have Patrick Benjamin and Eugene Redko. Patrick is our Strategic Product Operations Director, and Eugene is our Product Manager for CleverCAD here at Clever Devices. Patrick will present on updating your schedule and creating PSAs in CleverWorks, and Eugene will cover how to create a PSA in CleverCAD. So I will then pass this over to Patrick. Patrick?
Yep, all set. Thank you, Sarah. So before we dive into the application itself, first I wanted to give you some things to consider when looking at where do I do my schedule change exactly. So you always have two options. You can do it in CleverWorks or you can do it in the scheduling system, but which location is the right place? So this depends on your operations. First thing to consider is, do you have a daily operations management system? So if you do, this is something that's going to make you move more so towards doing it within your scheduling system, because you need to make sure that the daily operations management system is in sync in terms of what is the plan of service for that particular day. An example of that is on your typical Monday service, I'm sure you have a lot more blocks and trips usually running. However, if you were moving into a type of service where that you're primarily running Saturday or Sunday service throughout the week, the amount of blocks, trips, runs, etc. is going to be different. So as a result, you want to make sure that your operator work assignment information is correct and in line with what you're going to actually perform in terms of service within your area. Other item to consider is whether or not you are exporting your GTFS static export directly from the scheduling system, or we at Clever Devices are doing it for you through CleverWorks. In the event that you're doing it through your scheduling system and you want to maintain that particular workflow, then it's best that you do it within your scheduling system, and then from there provide us with a schedule output. Same for the daily operations management software. Now, if there is flexibility there where, let's say, for example, the GTFS static update, you're okay with taking it from us, your daily operations software, you're going to suspend it because things are just in such a state where that really you just need to get this information out there to make sure it's correct to the public, then we can help you there and move forward without having to go back to the scheduling system. If the answer is you have to go back to the scheduling system, we are still able to support you through this change as well too. So it does not make you effectively not a candidate for what we're about to show you. Okay, so with that, Sarah, could you please pass me control of the screen? Okay, so now we're transitioning over into CleverWorks. For some of you, this may look familiar, others not as familiar. The reason being is because not all customers manage their CleverWorks databases. In some cases, we do it for you within our data systems group. So if you manage your database yourself, this is what I'm going to show you, something you could do yourself. Take it through the QA process, either send us your database for us to look it over, or do your own QA and then distribute it out to your fleet and downstream products. If it is not something that you do, then it's just a matter of you submitting a request to us, and then from there, we will take care of everything that I'm about to show you. So going down the first approach of where that I need to make an update within my scheduling system and then pass it over to CleverWorks, in that case, you would go through the typical workflow of going to your import tab at the top, import schedule, and then from there, browse into the location of the files and doing your schedule import, which our recommendation at this point in time is really to try to minimize your schedule updates primarily towards things that are going to change your service, meaning that the reduction of the amount of trips, blocks, et cetera, that you are currently going to be providing to the public for service. Reason for that is because it greatly increases the efficiency in terms of being able to do this update and get it out within a couple of days at the most. Now, in the event that we're not going back to the scheduling system, this is where we will look towards the other screens within CleverWorks. So first, we'll go to our Transit Data tab. And under the Transit Data tab, we have multiple options. Route Management is our first location. This is where I'll be able to see all of the different route variations that I have within the system. So let's say, for example, if because of the pandemic, we've decided that service on Route 1 is going to be suspended. Rather than going back to the scheduling system and dropping Route 1, I could go into CleverWorks and simply move all of the route variations for Route 1 into not in service. Once I save that and export a database with Route 1 being not in service, what's going to happen is all the schedule data associated with Route 1 will also be dropped, meaning that if we create a GTFS export for you too as well, Route 1 will not be included. So you're effectively taking Route 1 out of service temporarily, and then later on, we can turn it back on, bring it back in service, create a new export for you, and then Route 1's back in business. But let's say you need to do a much larger scale change. In that case, we have a service date change capability that's built into CleverWorks. Again, this is the pre-export version of this. This is not a real-time service date change. So what we're looking at here is available to you too as well, just for regular data management, where that after I import a schedule, I can see what am I scheduled to run? Am I running regular weekday service on my weekdays, Saturday service on a Saturday, or do I have a holiday and I'm going to be running an exception, say for example on the 30th? But with this here, it also allows me to see what I'm scheduled to run in terms of service, but also allows me to make adjustments. So let's say, for example, on tomorrow on the 31st, rather than running Saturday service, because this is a database that has already been modified as a result of the pandemic, I need to change this and I need to run Sunday service instead. All I have to do is just click and drag my Sunday onto the 31st. The system will ask me to confirm that this is indeed correct. Yes, and then the change is applied and will be reflected visually to the user. Now, one thing to keep in mind, because I have heard quite a few requests come in. However, in those requests, the spring sign-up was also going to be canceled. In the event that that is the situation that you are in, we are able to work around that and by extending your schedule and then from there reprocessing it within the system. Because if my schedule is set to end on March 31st, you will not have a calendar for April because according to CleverWorks and what has been imported into it, your schedule ends on the 31st. But we can extend that though, so that is another area of service that we are also able to assist you with. Now, moving into your audio adjustments, because this is your schedule adjustments here, we'll go over to our audio tab and we'll navigate to our inventory. So the inventory is where we have all the different phrases that we use for audio announcements. For some of you, this is a pre-recorded inventory, meaning that it's all professionally recorded audio. For others, it's a text-to-speech inventory where that we're using text-to-speech for us to be able to provide you with your audio announcements. Text-to-speech versus pre-recorded is just a matter of what was deployed for you in terms of your particular project, and there's different flavors of that. Right now, what we're solely focusing on is whether or not you're using text-to-speech within CleverWorks. From here, I can go ahead and add a new announcement. So we'll go ahead and add one for the purpose of the demo here. And I will add in my TTS text, which I've already copied in. And I can go ahead and save this text. Now, if I needed to modify it, I can go in and take a look at the text that I have here, scroll through the whole entire thing, and most importantly, I can preview it right from this screen.
Attention riders. Please eliminate all non-essential trips and follow all recommended health precautions like social distancing during the COVID-19 pandemic. Thank you for your continued cooperation, and please stay healthy and safe.
Okay, so that's a preview of your announcement. Now, in the event that, let's say, for example, you're using professionally recorded audio, however, you can't get in touch with your voice talent. This is another area where we can assist you. So you can reach out to us, and then from there, either one, we can help with having the audio professionally recorded, or we can use our text-to-speech engine to convert an announcement over to a WAV file, and then either send it to you to be included into your database, or again, we can provide you with the whole entire service by doing the database update ourselves. So now once I have my inventory record, then I would go into my PSA. So for my PSA, I would add an additional one because what you're going to see here is just what you already have within the system. So I would click Add PSA. We'll add a description for it. I will go ahead and enable the schedule. It will start today, and we will end it on the 1st of May at 12 a.m. due to the extension of the advisory. And here we're defining what the frequency is at which we'll play this public service announcement. Right now it's set to 15 minutes. That can be adjusted if needed. All routes means that it will be played on any route that you're on. If there's certain routes that are especially sensitive to the current situation, you can make PSAs that will be played only on those specific routes. Enable on the TCH. This is something that you definitely will want to use right now because this is a way of being able to give your operators a way of being able to communicate with the customers without having to pick up the microphone to make a PA announcement. When you enable TCH, this is going to allow that public service announcement to be displayed on the TCH so the operator can go ahead and push it at any given time so that the announcement is played throughout the vehicle. So now from here, I just go ahead and save my PSA. All the settings are maintained there. And then I go ahead and define what I want from my announcement. So the announcement itself will be driven based upon what do I have in my inventory. So I have my COVID-19 announcement there. I can define whatever I want for my interior sign text. And as well as the TCH text too as well. So this is what the operator will see. Save, and then I have my PSA all set up. At this point, all I have to do is just go ahead and export this information because that's all the changes I'm making. Schedule changes and public service announcement changes. At this point here, we're selecting what we're going to export, which is going to be our onboard software as well as the server side database. And from there, you can also elect to export GTFS data, or if you're not going to use our GTFS, not a problem, don't include it in the export. Click Begin Export, and then from there, you just wait until the export is done and then distribute it down to your downstream systems, along with doing any testing that you would typically do prior to doing the distribution. So now, once you're past the point of distribution, at this point, this database is into CleverCAD, and there is ways that you can trigger these announcements directly from within CleverCAD and other things you can do with PSAs in CleverCAD. So at this point, I'm going to turn the screen control and the audio over to Eugene Redko so that he can take you guys through CleverCAD and what we're able to do there in terms of managing, utilizing our public service announcements.
Thank you, Patrick.
You're welcome.
So Patrick focused on the CleverWorks side. I'm going to talk about the CleverCAD side. So Patrick showed how you can create new public service announcements in an audio inventory and ways that you can modify your schedule. One of the consumers of the information of the changes that Patrick showed is CleverCAD. So when those schedule changes are made regarding the type of service on a certain day, CleverCAD will display that same service. So the vehicles will show in the various grids based on that new schedule that's created. From an audio perspective, I'm going to be focusing on real-time public service announcements. So these are announcements that you can trigger directly from CleverCAD to play at that time. So to do this within your CleverCAD system, you go up to your Communications tab, and there you'll see a button for public announcements like you see here. There's various other ways that you can initiate a public announcement, and we're going to show that as well. However, from here, the most standard workflow is to go communication, public announcement, and then you'll be shown the screen here. So within this screen, the first part is selecting the recipients. Now we have a lot of flexibility here. If you want to send a public service announcement and basically use your vehicles like speakers throughout your entire service area and use your signs to make that announcement right now at this time, you can do that by, for example, let's say selecting a garage. Basically, any vehicle that belongs to that garage will display that message. Another way that you can do it is by selecting specific routes. So if there are certain routes are impacted by some changes, you can select those. Or you can also select specific vehicles. So let's say I want to select these vehicles here. I can select that as well. And I have any variation of options that you see available. So vehicle status. Basically, there's a large variety of options that I can choose. Now, going back, this is where I have my pre-configured public announcements. So these are the ones that you just saw Patrick working on. So that COVID-19 one that he created will now be available in CAD and will be a drop-down option. So basically, when I select that option, these are one of our pre-configured ones. I can say that I also want this announcement played on the interior sign and on the inside PA. And basically, if I hit send, then that message will be played. Now that's a pre-configured announcement. One thing to show here, you can actually schedule this. So if there's an announcement that's about to be made or coming up, you can use this functionality to play this message in the future, maybe 5 minutes from now. Let's talk about ad hoc announcements. These are messages that you need to send right now, and you can't wait for the whole process of going to CleverWorks, making any changes. You need something to be sent this minute or within the next hour or within today, right? It's a real-time message that you're sending. So that's called an ad hoc announcement. So what I can do here is for my selected group, I can make an ad hoc announcement. I can say whatever I want here, and utilizing that text-to-speech engine that Patrick mentioned, the vehicles will play that announcement and display that on the internal signs in real time. So let's say there was some change in service that is occurring because of the virus and the conditions are changing. You may want people to visit your website right away. So you could say change of service, visit website, right? Visit our website. In this case, you can once again set that this message is displayed on the internal signs, and you can also set that this ad hoc message is displayed on the inside, is announced on the inside speakers and the outside speakers. So anyone that's around that vehicle, in that vehicle, or around that vehicle will hear that message. That's something that I could schedule as well. So maybe there's a change of service that's going to be announced in 2 minutes from now, hypothetically, or very shortly into the future. I can send that, hit that button. This will actually tell me that some of the vehicles I selected were not available for that public announcement, which is fine. Still, the majority of vehicles on these routes will get the message, and I hit OK. What we'll see now is in our CleverCAD mail client, under the announcements section, we'll have that new message that we sent. And this will actually show me the status of the message along with additional information. So a lot of information is available there to track the status. There's a few other ways that you can make that message sent. So if there was a message that was specific to a certain area, let's say something you want people to avoid downtown, as an example, for something, or to practice social distancing in certain areas, I can do a select area and basically select an area on the map, like you see here, which basically creates this bounding box. Within this bounding box, I can just right-click and do public announcement to the selected vehicles. So now this is pre-populated with all the vehicles that are within that area. I may want to do Patrick's message of practicing social distancing, or I may want a specific message. Let's just say let's practice social distancing as an example of a message I can send. This will once again be something that is displayed on the interior sign, the outside and inside PA. using my vehicles as a loudspeaker to make my message known. I can make that a repeating message as well if I wanted to. And then I can hit send, and once again, we'll see this practicing social distance message went out. These are all the vehicles that were impacted, and you can see that the date and time that the message was attempted, as well as when it was received, and the response. So these vehicles all received that message, and at that moment, if you were standing in this area, you would hear and see that message. One other thing just to point out, this same functionality is available within the grids within CAD. So if I can select any of my vehicles, let's say these vehicles that are en route, I can just right click on any of these, and I have that same ability to make a public announcement directly to a specific vehicle if need be from the grids or directly from the map. So we can do this for an area, we can do this for selected vehicles, we can do this for all vehicles. And once again, this is something that we could do either from the audio inventory that Patrick created in CleverWorks or with an ad hoc capability, just typing it in here. Any questions about this? Gonna pass the screen over back to Sarah.
Great. Thank you, Eugene and Patrick. We have about, oh, am I sharing my screen? I'm sorry about that. I will take this back. I will show my screen. And so we have about 7 or 8 minutes for questions. I just wanted to open up the chat window for anyone that has any questions on what we showed today, any information that they want additional information on. Please add it to your chat window. I do have a question here. It is for Eugene. Do you need to have text-to-speech enabled for the ad hoc text option to work in CAD?
That's a great question, and yes, you do. So for the ad hoc message that we showed there, where we type in that message that we want announced right now, you do need the text-to-speech engine enabled to type in that ad hoc message. However, you do not need the text-to-speech engine enabled if you're using the pre-created messages. So it's only for the ad hoc messages that you need text-to-speech.
Okay, great. I also have a question from Raphael. Will this presentation be available for repeated viewing? That question is for me, yes. We will have this, this presentation has been recorded. It will be up on our website within 24 hours, and we'll be able to send that out to each of you. I have a question from Jeff Beaumont. How can I schedule multiple messages to play in CAD multiple times?
So, hi Jeff. Hope you're staying safe out there in Washington State. In this scenario, you would have to create separate public announcement messages for that are scheduled for different times, and the functionality in CAD is really intended to send that message in real time. If it's something where you are making a constant announcement, like some of the social distancing or whatever guidelines that we need to follow, I would recommend that is used you set that up as part of your audio inventory in CleverWorks, where you could set your parameters for those messages. If it's something that you think needs to be repeated frequently throughout the day, if it's a message that you want to send just a few times, each would be an individual scheduled message. And this way you'd see the information regarding which vehicles receive that specific message and the status like we showed. So if it's something that you want to do on specific routes or fleet-wide, you would set that up each as an individual message that's scheduled for a time into the future. And that's, if it's something that you want to do more than a few times, I would definitely recommend that you look to CleverWorks to simplify that operation.
Great. I have another question. Patrick, I believe this one is for you. How do you request a database update related to COVID-19?
Sure. So for database requests, especially related to COVID-19, the best course of action is for you to engage your project team and/or account manager. Now, in the event if you do not know who that is, but you do know who you work with on data systems, because let's say, for example, you're beyond the earlier phases of your project, then you can send this request directly into data systems, and from there, we will alert the rest of the parties involved so that then we can get your database out as quickly as possible.
Great. And so what is that current lead time?
So currently we have been able to reduce our lead time down to approximately 2 to 3 days max for database updates. As a result of the influx of change requests and the nature of the requests being an emergency, we have optimized our QA process so that we're able to turn these databases around in really, really short order, regardless of whether or not you have a new schedule that we need to import into the system.
Great. I have a question from Gabriel Mori. He asks that about text-to-speech. Is this the same one that is used in disruption management, or is it a separate function of CAD?
So the text-to-speech engine. Yeah, go ahead, Eugene.
Please, Patrick. Please.
Okay. Starting with the CleverWorks part of things, the text-to-speech engine that you're using there is the same one that would be used in disruption management if you were creating a new stop as a part of a detour, for example. That's what you would use to preview it on the server side. On the vehicle side, though, that is where that you would have the text-to-speech engine installed on board. So the way that you would know whether or not if this is something that's available to you, you'll see that already it's turned on your system. In terms of the onboard side of things, it is the same text-to-speech engine that you would use for disruption management or any other ad hoc announcement that would be installed on board.
I think that's a really great question. From a CAD perspective, we actually don't the text-to-speech component is not reliant on the CAD side of things. CAD sends the message as text, and the vehicle translates it into the audio that's heard. So I just want to point out something from a best practices standpoint. The ad hoc messages that we're talking about are best used for shorter messages. So I wouldn't use that functionality to create a paragraphs long message. It's for short updates that will point someone to a website or some other area where they can get additional information in long form. The reason for that is this is a message that's displayed like we talked about on the signs. There's signs have certain memory limitations that basically will make it very challenging, depending on the make and model of sign and vehicle, to show a very, very large message, because there'd be a lot of data that's scrolling that would have to scroll into the audio announcement that's made. And so for that reason, when you're using the ad hoc feature within CAD, I would advise the best practice would be to limit it to a short sentence if possible.
Okay, great. And we are at 2:30. So thank you everyone for joining us. If we haven't answered your question or you would like any additional information on the features that we've shown you, please email us at contact@cleverdevices.com, or please contact your database team like Patrick had mentioned. We'll be able to answer any questions for you, because we are here to help you and your agencies during this extremely unprecedented experience. So thank you guys so much for joining us. Again, this presentation will be available on the website within 24 hours. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much. Please stay safe out there.